recorded. Okay. So welcome again. I'm Laurel Mitchell. I'm the Director of Public Impact for Erie Arts and Culture. My pronouns are she, her, and tonight I am wearing round purple glasses, bright multicolored top, and I have brown straight long hair. I'm joined today by my colleague, Devonna Paisley, Program Associate. Devonna, would you please introduce yourself?
Yes. Okay, sorry. Hey folks, my name is Devonna Paisley. I stated I'm the program associate. I use she, her pronouns. I'm a brown-skinned woman in my early 30s with medium-sized afro, wearing a yellow shirt, circular copper brown glasses, and earrings.
Thanks, Devonna. So tonight's presentation is a part of Erie Arts and Culture's Pro Network. So we want to first thank the National Endowment for the Arts for their continued support of presentations like these. And we also want to acknowledge the support of the Ignite Arts Grant, which is made possible by contributions made to the Erie Arts Endowment, Arts and Culture Campaign, and special events like Erie Gives Day. Specific Ignite Arts Grants projects, which involve music performance or arts education, have an enhanced pool of funds available thanks to donors who wish to ensure that these specific activities thrive in Erie County. So a very big special thanks goes out to all of those donors and supporters for making this grant possible. And again, thanks to all of you for joining us, and both live and for those who will be watching at a later date. We hope that tonight's information session will be informative and inspiring and help answer any questions that you might have going on. Give me 1 second to get my screen situated here, and we will jump right in. All right. So as we look ahead here to the order of operations for this evening, I just want to touch briefly on some of the things that we're going to cover. First, we'll start with a brief history of the Erie Arts Endowment. We'll also talk about how to prepare and write a submission so that you can have the strongest application possible for this grant. We'll also talk about the types of projects that are eligible and general eligibility requirements. And finally, we'll walk you through where to find the grant application online, and we'll conclude our time today with a brief Q&A session. We're going to try to keep things within the hour, move along. We, of course, want to answer any questions that you have and allow enough time at the end for that. So thanks for your patience in advance and for keeping us hopefully within time. So now I am going to go ahead and turn things over to Devonna so that she may share some history about this grant and its support.
All right. So in the fall, how EAE came to to be about. In the fall of 1967, the first 43 successive United Arts Fund drives was held, and this was the first in PA. It was the 16th in the United States, and from that, the funding then became supported by a number of organizations within Erie, and that is also to support the Ignite Art Grant. The EAE, which is the Erie Arts Endowment, was created in 1982 with a gift by Clarence E. Byers. Additional gifts were then received from Mr. Byers, along with trusts established by Lydia McCain, the McBriar family, Roger Zern, and Kathy Zern-Rom, through a PA Council on the Arts Matching Program from the countless and other countless donors. In 2021, Erie Arts and Culture was awarded $68,493, which we then were able to give to 28 grantees of the 37 applicants. Now back to you, Laurel.
Yeah, thank you. And I just want to mention quickly that for some of you who might be familiar with Erie Arts and Culture, and the history of this grant and some other ways that you'll remember that it's been called by a few different names in the past, and it's kind of evolved. In the past, it was also called Erie Arts Endowment Small Project Grant, or the Erie Arts and Culture Small Project Grant. We now call it Ignite Arts Grant because these awards often help to spark interest in arts programming, kind of launch things forward. So the same idea, new name, and with some parameters. The same as last year for those who are familiar with that, but if we're just thinking historically, I just wanted to make sure we're all aware of that. So as we look ahead to how to best be prepared to write and submit the application, I want to share some tips and just kind of talk through this before we get into some examples of projects. So, for those who are familiar and have experience submitting to grants, I know some of this will probably not sound too groundbreaking, but for those who might be embarking on their first time with this kind of project, I really want to point out these things because they are really critical. So bear with me in case we have a varied audience here. It's of course important to take time to properly prepare your grant application. It's not something you want to be rushed on or do at the last minute. Even if you know exactly what you want to say, please don't rely on technology. Some of us might, have experienced the craziness that happened just yesterday when Facebook, Instagram, and those types of social platforms were down. So we never know what will happen in our world. So we encourage you to please be prepared up front and to allow time to get this application together. And as you're doing that, there's a few things to think about as you're writing. The first is the proper introduction of an organization. We don't want anyone to assume that they know, that the panel rather will know what their organization is, what it's all about. You should view the application process as a first-time introduction to your organization. The better description of your organization, the more confident the panel will be in understanding your mission, and it will increase your chance of receiving an award and a higher award amount. Within this, it's important to think about what demographics you serve. What are the zip codes that you're involved with, and why do they matter? Help us understand the populations you work with as part of your organization's mission and why that matters. Be sure to spend a little bit of time discussing that. It's also important to demonstrate that the project is comprehensive. Walk us through the project step by step and help the team understand your core objectives while also demonstrating a fully thought out process. This is, again, not a time to assume that people can make assumptions or take giant leaps and connect the dots. It's something you're going to want to articulate through what you're submitting within your application. It's also important to include timelines and an explanation of the project's outcomes and goals that you're hoping to achieve. Again, don't assume that anyone can draw those conclusions on their own. And also, you're going to want to outline any collaborations between organizations or other folks in the community. And with this, again, be as specific as possible, map it out for everybody. Now, Devon is going to share with you some types of categories to apply within and some other eligibility requirements.
So there are three categories of projects that we focus on that you can apply underneath. And next, I'll discuss each of these categories and share a few examples of the past projects that we did have within these categories. So the first would be bold and innovative. These awards may support big ideas that do push boundaries, engaging participants in unexpected ways, piloting new solutions to challenging problems or improving program design with calculated risk taking. These projects may serve as a stepping stone to a larger project down the road, which is okay. And these projects should be experimental and demonstrate an initiative that hasn't been done before. That's what we're looking for when it comes to this. And so go ahead and think outside the box, really, and share your bold, innovative ideas is what we're looking for as one category. And next, when preserving and promoting cultural diversity, this is one of my favorites, I would say. One of the things I really like to look for. An award may fund projects that celebrate communities and unique arts and culture, preserving culturally significant traditions and practices. These types of projects celebrate heritage and traditions and define characteristics of our local community. These awards do support new and also existing organizations, whose mission, staff, and programs are under the culture diversity within our community. And then finally, building relationships with new and under resourced communities. Funding may support one-time accommodations for patrons and artists with disabilities. For example, you could use this funding to support American Sign Language interpretation for a performance, to add audio description or captioning to a video, or you could share your content in alternative formats that help reach broader audiences. And awards could go towards the purchase of durable equipment that supports the ideas just mentioned. However, these funds may not be used physically changing or improving spaces. Next, I'm going to share some examples of projects to help you all kind of get an idea and, kind of help the brain juices and creative juices to flow. So it's important to note that in some of these examples, organizations had other levels of support. So not everything was supported through the Ignite Art Grant. So in some instances, these projects were a part of a series of projects. And we're just featuring a single part of a larger project, basically. And again, I hope these examples can inspire you to get some ideas and so we can let's look at these examples through the funding. So we're going to start through the funding and the Bold and Innovative Project. And that is the Art and Industry Project. And that is funding with the National Endowment of the Arts. That project is to bring together manufacturers, teaching artists, high school students in the Erie County Technical School. That created a larger piece of public art, which you see right here. I don't know if anybody's familiar with the two pieces of art right here below. They are by the Level Place, to give you a location, they're by the Level Place Apartments, the welfare building, that building over there, that's where the horse is, this horse that you'll see, this piece of art. And as far as the New American food tours, we used to have with Mr. Matham, who is now in California, living it up. But Matham was the one who did our New American business tour in 2019, before the pandemic, actually. And this brought awareness to the rising New American population and the contributions that they've made in our community, and really highlighted all the beautiful businesses that were going on, all the different, tours is what he was doing. So he did tours to walk through different stores and learning about the refugee population and learning about a variety of businesses that we have to offer. Side note, Erie Arts and Culture actually does have a directory of New American businesses that you can check that out on our website. So yeah. And so under the umbrella of the Preserve and Promote Cultural Diversity, we have in 2020, actually just this past June, we did a juried art exhibit that took place at the Blasco Library during the month of June. And that was for Pride Month, the month of Pride. And that exhibit featured over 50 artworks from 28 different local LGBTQ artists. Yes, and they worked to create mediums including jewelry, mixed media, painting, and just so much more. And these collaborations were partnering with Northwestern Pennsylvania, Art Association. I know it as NPAA, and Erie's Performing Arts Collective, which is the PACA Center, Mercyhurst University, Penn State, Edinburgh, Allegheny. So yeah, that was what was great. I'm glad that happened. And then there was another one under the building relationships. And that is the Hagen History Center, Reimagined Galleries and Programming. This past year, there was, let me get my notes out. Okay, so engaging both staff and volunteers at the Hagen Center, which work to redesign and expand the impact by offering new and expanded virtual programming, collaborating and expanding access and programming with urban and rural communities, investing in reimagined exhibitions, galleries to tell a more diverse and broad story. There was actually a lot of awesome things that are actually happening at the Hagen History Center, and I'm happy to see us connecting with that. So as you see, there are a lot of different ways to approach these applications. So we hope that you'll just use this creativity and use this these ideas as to help you think boldly in a new and innovative way and help reach the community in new ways that inspire and uplift our community. So now, Laurel, you want to discuss the eligibility requirements?
Yeah. Before we do, I just want to make sure everyone had a chance to see the some of the pictures that you were referencing there when describing some of those past projects. So
Yes,
Devon, if you we'll just look at those for a moment to help with the extra inspiration for some past projects within our presentation here. And hopefully you can all see those on your side of things. And then, yes, I do want to go through the less inspiring but equally important parts, which is the eligibility requirements, to make sure that everyone who is taking the time to apply is not doing so, for naught, essentially. So there's a few things that might be a surprise for this. I know we've had folks ask who are individuals if they can apply. The answer is no. This opportunity is actually only open to registered 501c3 organizations, nonprofits. And this is demonstrated by a copy of the applicant's IRS determination letter. So again, our apologies to individual artists. We do have other opportunities, but this is for organizations, for nonprofits. Also, the applicant, the nonprofit, principal office and/or activities must be located in Erie County, Pennsylvania. This is a funding opportunity, as we mentioned, that comes from the Erie Arts Endowment. So when we're working with that type of funding, it was on us to keep this within the county. So make sure that your registered address is within Erie County. Additionally, as in support of our DEI initiatives and equity, applicants must not discriminate on the basis of age, race, color, religion, national origin, ability, sexual orientation, marital status, gender identity, in any program or any activity related to the grant funds. Inclusivity is a must for this. Applicants also must be in good standing in accordance with the grant requirements of Erie Arts and Culture and must have provided all contract reports that are required up to date. So this means if you have been a past recipient of any funding from Erie Arts and Culture, make sure that all of those final reports are in. Any other lingering issues or outstanding projects would have to be tied up before additional funding like this would be considered. Again, mentioning that the address of the organization has to be within Erie County, and similarly, the project must occur in Erie County, Pennsylvania, and it must also be accessible by the general public. This can't be programming that's just for staff or some type of exclusive group. It has to be a general opportunity that would be open and available to the public. And finally, all projects must occur between January 1st and December 31st. So for this iteration, we're looking at about 3 months from now, January 1st, 2022, and ending next December 31st, 2022. We operate on a calendar year for this program. Related to eligibility, I want to talk briefly about match requirements for this grant. It's important to know that if you're awarded funding, that there is a 10% cash match requirement that your organization will be responsible for. You may include projected and estimated earned income that you'll receive during the length of the grant, but you cannot include in-kind goods or services. So as you're building your projected budget that this funding would support, just again, keep in mind that 10% match, projected and earned income, okay, in-kind goods and services, not okay. And related, there are funding restrictions. So For those of you who are familiar with other grant terms, especially any grants that are coming out of the Pennsylvania Council on the Arts, a lot of these terms won't be unfamiliar. They're a little bit different, but they're very important to keep in mind. And there's a lot of them, so do know that this is all written down. We'll get into that part here in the presentation later so that you have access to all of this, but just to go through them right now, please know that with this funding, you cannot use it for any capital expenditures over $500. May not be used for activities in which academic credit is given. You also cannot use it for activities that have already been completed. If something has already happened in your organization, then please do not include it in the application or narrative, because we're not allowed to fund things in the past. We're only looking forward with this. Any activities that have a religious or political purpose are not eligible for this funding. Similarly, performances and exhibitions not available to the general public, as we mentioned earlier, are not eligible. Performances and exhibitions outside of Erie County, Pennsylvania, and not eligible. The money can also not be used to give cash prizes or awards to any other recipient. It cannot be used for parties, gallery openings, benefit activities and fundraising events, lobbyist payments, or competitions. So that is the list. Again, I know it's a lot to keep track of, but Devana is going to walk us through some online information here soon of where we can find not only this list, but all the information that we're going over here this evening. So Devana, I'll turn it back over to you to talk more about the online portion of this.
Sure. So as Laurel mentioned, the information we just shared is also concerning the eligibility. That word is always so hard to say, eligibility. When you're like just, but anyway, eligibility and funding requirements can all be found on the website along with the application. So if you go to your www.erieartsandculture.org, at the top heading, then click on programs and services. And then from the drop-down options, you'll get select opportunities for organizations. And then that's when you'll get on the page and it'll find the Ignite Arts Grant. And that section where you can find the link to the online application and also the additional information. And literally it all says it right there on the page. We've tried to make that form and information very, very user-friendly. So hopefully you all find that the information, that when you visit it, that the information is clear and concise. So yeah, the application form is hosted through Submittable. So we use Submittable for most of our forms, all of our grant applications. And our grant application, and that's for our management as well. Many of you may already be familiar with Submittable, I know. Just seeing some of the faces in here, I know some of you are familiar with doing Submittable, but for those that are not, hopefully you'll find that it's very user-friendly. One tip that we do recommend is that you prepare your answers in a Word document before entering and copying and pasting the information to Submittable, just so that you can have the chance to work through your ideas and plans to advance outside of our online platform. It's always good to do that in Word as well, because computers are not always, as we see, technology is not always, there. Please also remember that if you have an online login through Submittable and have your trouble logging in, that you'll need to work directly with them to reset any passwords. So that does not go to us. We cannot assist with the login questions through Submittable. So I think we can go on to what's next. What happens next? So hopefully, when you apply for this funding, if you do, please remember that the application is open right now, and then it's open till Friday, November 5th. After that date, our team then starts the following process. So after that, we do the invite the regional professionals to serve as panelists. The panels then the panels that we create depend on the type of application that we do receive. The process does take some time. So as we find the strong variety of panelists and ensure that everyone's schedule can align, that's when we then move on. Once we have panelists confirmed, the panelists then gather and gain consensus and make recommendations. They then talk together to make sure that everyone is on the same page and that no one is overlooked during the individual independent review. Erie Arts and Culture's grant making committee then convenes and determines the funding for each application. We do this by reviewing the amount of funding available through the endowment and how many applicants have participated. Give me 1 second. My technology, y'all. Technology. Being finicky. Okay. Where I leave off of. Okay, so after we review the recommendation that is made to the Erie Arts and Culture's Board of Trustees, which allows then another level of review and a moment to ask the questions from the trustees. Once the approval is complete by the board, checks are presented during the winter 2020. So that will be winter of next year, 2022. Next year. So please stay tuned in the coming months for more information about the award announcement when that happens. With the pandemic and the holiday season, it is hard for us to say right now the exact timing of when this information will be announced, but we will certainly make sure that we keep y'all updated and we'll be able to give you further notice about confirmed dates and awards. Again, to recap, the application is now open and can be found through the website at erieartsandculture.org. Applications are open through Friday, November 5th. And this concludes our presentation. So I will turn back to Laurel.
Thank you, Devonna.
Welcome.
Yeah, as Devonna mentioned, this is the bulk of the information that we want to share, but we want to allow plenty of time here now through the rest of our time together to answer the questions that you might have. And before we jump into that, I also want to remind you that if you think of things later, I'm always one to think of something 10 minutes after the fact, that we are here. We are always here to answer questions. You can reach us by phone and email, and we really, really want to help support all of you in submitting your applications. So please don't hesitate. Don't feel like tonight is all there is. And moreover, if you have questions that are a little more specific to just your organization or just your idea for this, it would actually be really great to schedule a time to talk with you more in depth. So tonight we want to try to stick to broad questions that help the group as much as possible. But again, please know that we are here and we'll look forward to connecting with you at a later date through the rest of the month here. But now let's turn it over to all of you, and I'll remind everyone, if you are on mute, to just go ahead and unmute yourself, and let's take some questions.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
You have the mic.
Hi. Could one organization apply for 2 different projects?
That is a very, very good question that I will need to get back to you on. Actually, I want to take this as a moment, actually, in response to that, to say that Devonna and I are both very new to the organization. So we are learning along with some of you, but that is a great question. And Lynn, if we can be sure to have your contact information, which we should through the registration process, we will get back to you and we can let all the participants know about that.
Okay.
Thank you. Anyone else have any questions so far? Not to put anyone on the spot.
All right.
That is totally okay. Again, if you think of something later on, we are here. And again, we will reach out to the folks that we have registered for this evening to follow up with Lynn's very good question. Apologies for us learning along the way with that one, but we certainly want to work to get everyone as much information as possible. And two, if you haven't dug in online yet, if you have yet to go to our website, or if you are jumping into the submittable application process for the first time, you might have questions once you start doing that. So again, while we can't help with login questions for submittable, please don't hesitate to reach out with anything, even just, with those logistics, let us know how we can help. And I will say, as an aside, if you've not worked with submittable, even with their staff, that if you do have any issues trying to retrieve your information, it should be pretty quick. It should be pretty pain-free. They have a great team. So we're hoping that it's a smooth ride for everyone from here on out. Before we say goodnight for the evening, just any other last questions? For 1 second. All right. Well, I want to thank everyone again for taking time out of your evening to join us. And I want to thank you for your enthusiasm and your interest in this special grant project, and for your support and interest in Erie Arts and Culture. We hope that you will be in touch. We hope that you are inspired and informed and will apply to this opportunity. And we look forward to receiving those applications. So thank you again, and good night.
Thank you.